When my husband saw my pregnancy test report, he demanded that I get an abortion immediately. I stood there, stunned. Just moments ago, Dr. Miller, the attending physician, had clearly stated that the baby was perfectly healthy. I pulled my hand free and confronted him. Why an abortion? He didn't answer, but I saw he was already booking the procedure. When I tried to run, he clamped down on my arm, his grip like steel. This child absolutely cannot stay. Clutching my stomach, I quickly called my parents, both also OB-GYNs. My father, who had always adored me, raised his fist, ready to strike my belly. My mother's face was a mask of terror as she shook her head frantically. No, this won't do. Find a few men and lock her in a room. I couldn't understand why they wanted to get rid of my baby. I tried to escape, but they dragged me into a dark, secluded room and locked me inside. As the bleeding started, I knew my baby was gone. Mom came to pick me up later. Smiling, I frantically demanded to know why they had done this to me. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned around and admitted me to a mental institution. I was tortured to death in that hospital. The next time I opened my eyes, I was back on the day we were supposed to pick up the prenatal test results. Liam looked at me, his face beaming with joy. Sweetheart, this is our first child. I can't wait for the day they're born. Come on, love, let's go. The hospital will get crowded soon. Hearing Liam's urging, I snapped back to reality. It was only when my hand brushed against my slightly rounded belly that I knew for sure I had been reborn. The fear from my previous life flooded my mind. I took a deep breath. This time, I was determined to find out exactly what had happened. Upon arriving at the hospital, I made sure to get the prenatal report first. Even after Dr. Miller confirmed the baby was healthy, I immediately took the report from her. I thought that as long as Liam didn't see it, nothing bad would happen. But to my surprise, as soon as I stepped out of Dr. Miller's office, Liam asked for the report. Just like in my previous life, my heart skipped a beat, but I forced a smile and asked, "Why do you want my report?" Liam smiled back. "I'm the baby's father and an OB-GYN. Isn't it normal for me to look at it? Dr. Miller, your colleague, just confirmed that both the baby and I are perfectly healthy. Don't you trust her professional judgment?" "No, it's not that," he said calmly. "I just want to understand the situation so I can take better care of you." I deliberately put the report into my bag right in front of him. "Well, I'm not letting you see it today." Liam probably thought I was just being playfully stubborn, so he went along with it. "All right, if you don't want me to see it, fine, as long as you're healthy." I smiled and hugged his arm. "I'm just going to the restroom. We'll head home when I get back." I grabbed my bag and hurried to the bathroom. I had scanned the report earlier, but because I was so quick, I hadn't noticed anything unusual. I decided to take a good look this time to figure out what could possibly be so wrong that it made them all lose their minds before. But the moment I reached the restroom, my heart pounded. The report was gone. I rushed out and, from a distance, saw Liam standing pale-faced. The prenatal report that should have been in my bag was now in his hand. Liam saw me and strode quickly toward me. My first instinct was to run, but he managed to grab my arm. His eyes were bloodshot, staring intensely at me. "Arya, this child can't stay. We're getting an abortion right now." In my previous life, I died without ever understanding why. My usually gentle husband turned into a completely different person after seeing that report. The cruelty in his eyes was something I had never witnessed before. My body trembled, but because this wasn't my first time experiencing it, I quickly screamed, "Help! Someone's trying to get rid of my baby." Hospitals are usually bustling, and my cry instantly drew a crowd. Liam seemed shocked by my outburst, but I sank to my knees in front of him. "Liam, Dr. Miller clearly said this baby is healthy. Why are you forcing me to get an abortion?" Liam gritted his teeth and hissed, "Shut up." He tried to drag me away, but onlookers had already stepped in. A man pulled him back. "What do you think you're doing? Trying to abort a healthy baby? If you didn't want a child, you should have thought about that before. Forcing a pregnant woman to abort is illegal. Call the police." Liam's breathing grew ragged, his jaw clenched as he glared at me, but surrounded by people, he couldn't act. To my shock, he suddenly smiled and turned to call my parents. Mom and Dad arrived to find us surrounded by a crowd. They didn't need to ask, it was obvious something had happened. Mom protectively pulled me into her arms, but the moment she touched me, I shivered. Kind strangers explained what had happened. Dad raised his hand, ready to slap Liam, but before his palm landed, Liam held up the report. "Don't look, Dad," I cried, trying to snatch it away, but Dad was faster. He took it and glanced at it. Instantly, his eyes darkened. "Dad," I whispered. When he looked at me again, his eyes were bloodshot. His hand came down across my face without hesitation. "You animal. Liam telling you to abort was for your own good." I was crushed, but I gritted my teeth, trying to reason. "But Dr. Miller already said the baby is perfectly healthy. I'm an OB/GYN too. How dare you argue with me?" Dad roared. As he raised his hand again, aiming for my stomach, Mom rushed over and shielded me. "Are you insane? Your daughter is pregnant." But Dad just sneered. "You pity her? She doesn't even deserve to be our child." The crowd gasped. People began pointing at my parents, horrified. Mom was panting, clearly torn. She knew Dad was usually gentle, something must be terribly wrong with that report. "Let me see it," she said. I quickly stepped forward, pleading, "Mom, Dr. Miller said the baby's fine. Please don't look, okay?" But the more I tried to stop her, the more determined she became. Ultimately, I couldn't stop her. The moment Mom saw the report, her face went pale. A sinister glint flashed in her eyes that made me tremble. Her voice was icy. "It's nothing, Arya. The baby's fine. Get up. Let's go home." She said everything was fine, but her trembling hands betrayed her. "No. I'm not going home," I said firmly, retreating into the crowd. Mom frowned, her expression hardening. "Arya, what are you doing? What if something happens to you out here?" Seeing them about to grab me, I clutched two nearby strangers and begged, "Please help me. I can't go back with them, they'll make me lose my baby." The bystanders hesitated, unsure what to do. Fortunately, someone spoke up. "She's pregnant and clearly emotional. You shouldn't force her." But Mom and Dad ignored them, their faces twisted with rage. "Come home with us now. Stop disrupting the hospital." They grabbed me roughly, and even though some people tried to intervene, no one dared to fight my family physically. Just then, a firm voice cut through the chaos. "Who told you to drag a pregnant woman like that?" A police officer barked. Liam finally let go. Mom quickly said, "Officer, this woman is our daughter. She has mental issues. We're just taking her home." The officer looked at me suspiciously. "Is that true?" "No," I cried. "They want to kill my baby." The three behind me froze, but then smirked as if confident I wouldn't be believed. "If you don't believe me," I said, trembling, "check the hospital's surveillance footage. They all tried to kill my baby." The officer ordered the hospital staff to pull up the footage. After watching it, a female officer stepped protectively in front of me and turned to them. "Why are you trying to terminate a healthy pregnancy?" Mom and Dad sneered. Liam just stared coldly. "Let me see my prenatal report," I demanded. Every one of them had changed after seeing that report. The truth had to be in it. At the officer's request, Liam reluctantly handed it over. When I finally saw it again, I understood why this child had to be terminated. The officer slid the report into a clear sleeve, then angled it so I could read the bolded addendum beneath the normal screening results. Maternal fetal SNP analysis indicates extensive runs of homozygosity consistent with first-degree consanguinity. Recommend urgent genetic counseling. My fingers went numb. First degree. The words rang like iron in my skull. Not distant relatives. Not a mistake. First degree. I had always assumed this child was Liam's. We were newly married, and I chalked the nausea and missed period up to the ordinary. But the report wasn't talking about me and Liam. It was saying that the baby's biological parents, me and the father, shared enough overlapping DNA to be parent and child or siblings. The breath left my lungs in a long, thin thread. I remembered that night weeks ago when Mom had dropped by with soup because you look pale, Arya. I'd woken dizzy and sick at dawn, chalked it up to a virus, and never thought about it again. The female officer studied my face. Do you understand what this means? I do, I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine at all. Please make a copy. 2 copies. Seal them. And I want the CCTV from every hallway I was dragged through today preserved. We're already requesting it, she said quietly. And we'll log this report into evidence. Chain of custody will be airtight. Liam spoke for the first time since the officer arrived, his voice hoarse. Arya, you can't keep. I looked at him. He flinched. You saw the note and decided the only solution was to erase the evidence, I said. You didn't even ask me what happened. It doesn't matter what happened, Dad snapped. End this pregnancy. The officer's gaze cut to him. Doctor or not, if you lay a hand on her again, I'll cuff you where you stand. Mom's mouth was a thin line. She looked at me the way a surgeon looks at a tumor, clinical, efficient, determined to remove. Come home, Arya. We'll talk privately. Privately, I echoed. Like the last time? When you talked to me by signing involuntary commitment forms. Her expression didn't flicker. You were unwell. I died, I said softly. I remember dying. A silence fell so complete I could hear the hum of the fluorescents. The officer cleared her throat. Mrs. and Dr. Hale, I'm advising your daughter to speak to a victim advocate and to an attorney before she goes anywhere with you. For now, she'll be leaving with hospital security. If you attempt to interfere, you'll be detained. Dad breathed through his nose, a furious bull barely leashed, but he stayed quiet. Liam took a half step toward me, then stopped when the officer's hand twitched toward her holster. Security ushered me to a quiet consult room. Dr. Miller slipped in moments later, closing the door behind her. She looked shaken. I tried to warn you, she said. I highlighted the addendum, hoped you'd read it before anyone else. I grabbed the report first thing, I said. I didn't see it. They switched it, she said flatly. Your husband came to the desk the moment you left my office. He said he was carrying it for you. Your parents arrived 2 minutes later. Heat pulsed behind my eyes. Can the lab run a confirmatory analysis? Independent, in case this report goes missing? I already called the lab director, she said. We stored an anonymized duplicate under my QA audit. I'll release it to law enforcement with your consent. You have it. She hesitated. Arya. I know you. You were my resident before you switched to research. You're steady and kind. Whatever your family is trying to spin, don't let them make you doubt yourself. The advocate arrived with paperwork and a soft voice that didn't pity me. We can help you file for an emergency protection order, she said. It'll bar contact and keep them from making medical decisions on your behalf. Do you have somewhere safe to go? In my other life, I'd had nowhere. I'd followed the hands that pushed me because they were the hands I had known since birth. This time, I looked at the people who had stepped between me and violence, a nurse, a doctor, a security guard with gentle eyes, a police officer who believed me, a stranger who had said call the police. I'll find somewhere, I said. We moved fast. A notary met us in administration to witness my advanced directive and medical power of attorney. I revoked every consent I'd ever given Mom and Dad to access my chart. I changed the PIN on my patient portal. Dr. Miller placed a bright red note in my record, no disclosure without patient present. She printed me a hard copy and stapled her card to it. The female officer, Officer Reyes, walked me to the elevator. Where can I take you? Not home, I said. They have keys. She thought. There's a short-term shelter 2 blocks from the precinct. It's anonymous intake. Clean. You'll have a locked room. I nodded. One stop first. I asked her to take me to the little coffee shop across from the hospital parking garage, the one with the wobbly tables and the barista who knew Liam's order. She parked in the loading zone, lights flashing. 2 minutes, she warned. I went straight to the corner table and reached up to the black plastic bubble of the security camera half hidden by a spider plant. I didn't need to touch it. I just needed the barista to see where I was looking. Maya, I said when she came over, do you still keep footage for 2 weeks? Manager says 30 days, she said, eyes flicking to my hospital bracelet and the officer visible through the window. Arya? Are you okay? I will be. On the night 2 Fridays ago, did you see me come in? With my mother? Her brow creased. You were alone. Looked dazed. You left your phone on the counter, remember? Your mom came in after, said you'd been called to the ER and took it. My stomach dropped. Do you still have the clip? She nodded slowly. I can burn it for you if the officer signs. Officer Reyes stepped inside and produced a clipboard. 10 minutes later, I had a sealed, signed DVD and a printed log with the timestamps and hash. Thank you, I said to both of them, and meant it with a bone-deep gratitude that shook me. At the shelter, the intake counselor gave me a room with a narrow bed and a window that looked out on a brick wall. It was the most beautiful view I'd ever seen. A lock between me and the world. I showered until the water ran cold. When I came out, a text from an unknown number was waiting on the new prepaid phone the advocate had handed me. It was Liam. Arya, we need to talk. Not by text. Not with cops. Please. I stared at the words. In the old life, I would have gone. I would have believed there was a version of this where love and reason could thread the needle between horror and denial. I typed, in writing, only. Anything you need to say now. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared. Appeared again. I didn't know, he wrote finally. I swear I didn't know until the report. Your mother said you were unstable. I thought, God, I don't know what I thought. But when I saw that note, I knew we couldn't. Couldn't what? I sent. Couldn't have the baby? Or couldn't let anyone find out? A long pause. Both. I put the phone down and sat on the bed, wrapping my arms around my belly. I'm so sorry, I whispered to the small life inside me. I'm new at this. But I am learning. In the morning, Officer Reyes called. Your emergency order was granted. Service is being attempted now. Also, there's something else. The hospital's preliminary pull shows your mother used her badge to enter the medication room outside of shift hours the night before your symptoms started. We'll need the full audit from pharmacy. The DA's office is looped in. I closed my eyes. A cool, steady calm slid into my bones. This time, there would be records. This time, there would be names. Dr. Miller texted a minute later. Lab director confirmed the QA duplicate. He's willing to meet with you and the detectives this afternoon. He also flagged that the pattern on the fetal SNP suggests the father is older than average for a first-degree pairing. The runs of homozygosity are skewed. He can explain. Older than average. Dad. I sat very still. In the mirror bolted to the wall, my reflection looked like someone I would respect in clinic, a woman holding a line. A physician on the threshold of her own hardest case. At noon, I walked into the lab conference room with Officer Reyes, the advocate, and an assistant DA named Priya Shah who wore her hair in a no-nonsense bun and said things like, "Let's keep this simple and true." The lab director, Dr. Anand, slid a packet across the table. This is the anonymized profile, he said. Fetal fraction is high. The SNP panel is robust. The coefficients suggest a first-degree relationship between biological parents, and the paternal haplotype shows age-associated mutational load high enough to make a late 40s or older father likely. He tapped a second page. Also, your chart shows an ED visit 12 weeks ago for a minor laceration. The serum chemistry drawn that night includes a benzodiazepine positive not consistent with the prescribed Ativan dose documented the week prior. The pharmacy audit officer Reyes requested shows midazolam withdrawals on your mother's account at off hours over the last 3 months. The room was very quiet. The simplest, truest story, Ada Shah said at last, is that your mother drugged you and your father assaulted you. Your husband saw a report that would detonate his marriage and his career if it came out. All three decided the fastest way to make it go away was to make you go away. I swallowed. You can prove it? We will try, she said. But we need you to stay safe, to follow our safety plan exactly, and to give us permission to collect additional evidence. Sane exam is outside the typical window, but we can still document lingering trauma, toxicology in hair, and corroborate with video and badge audits. We'll move for a no-contact order to include your home, your workplace, and your physicians. I signed. I initialed. I handed over the DVD from the coffee shop. I wrote a statement that began, "I am a physician, and I am afraid of two other physicians who raised me." That afternoon, Liam sent another message, "I'll tell the truth if you meet me. I'll wear a wire. I'll get you everything." It was the kind of message that could be a lifeline or a noose. Officer Reyes read it over my shoulder. "If he's serious, he can come to the precinct and talk to us," she said. "We'll record. We'll offer him limited immunity for cooperation if the DA approves. You won't meet him alone. Tell them yourself," I typed back. "Precinct only." No answer came. At dusk, Dr. Miller called again. "Your parents are suspended pending the investigation," she said. The hospital moved fast. "Also, a warning. Your father has not accepted service of the order. He refused to open his door. If he tries to reach you, call 911. The shelter hallway smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old paint. Somewhere down the corridor a child laughed, and the sound made something unknit in my chest. I pressed my palm to my belly. "You're safe," I whispered. "I promise you're safe." I slept for the first time in days. In the morning, I woke to a message from an unknown number. No text, just a link to a live stream. My thumb hovered, then tapped. The screen filled with the outside of my apartment door. The camera was so close I could see the scrapes in the paint near the deadbolt where keys had missed in the dark. A shadow shifted. My father leaned into frame, eyes flat as river stones, tools glinting in his hand. He looked straight into the camera, my camera, the cheap motion-activated one I'd stuck up last month after a neighbor's package theft, and smiled. Then he began to pick the lock. My pulse roared in my ears as the live feed flickered. The timestamp proved it was happening now. 7:14 a.m. My father was outside my old apartment, the place I hadn't set foot in since yesterday's police escort to the shelter. I snatched my phone and called Officer Reyes. "He's there," I gasped. "He's breaking in right now." "Stay where you are," she ordered. "We have units nearby." I sent her the link. Within seconds, she confirmed, "We see him. Don't move." On the stream, my father worked the lock open and slipped inside. The feed caught his shoes crunching on the shards of a broken mug, one I dropped during the last argument before everything imploded. He moved with the same deliberate precision he'd used in surgery, scanning the small living room, searching. Then his voice, low but clear, "Arya, sweetheart, come home. It's not too late to fix this." Every syllable curdled my blood. Minutes later, blue and red lights flashed through the camera feed. The door burst open again, this time with officers shouting commands. My father froze mid-step, hands raised. His face twisted, not with fear, with contempt. The officers cuffed him as he finally spotted the small black camera blinking above the doorframe. For the first time, he looked startled. When the screen went dark, I realized my hands were shaking uncontrollably. By afternoon, the precinct conference room was packed. The DA's office had fast-tracked the case. Officer Reyes placed the tablet showing the footage on the table. Dr. Miller was there too, pale and tight-lipped. Ada Shah summarized quietly, breaking and entering, violation of a protection order, evidence tampering, sexual assault, unlawful sedation, and conspiracy to commit medical malpractice. "He's not getting bail." My stomach churned. I looked at her. "And my mother?" "They're questioning her now," Shah said. "She's claiming coercion, but pharmacy records show her withdrawals and badge use." She knew. Liam was in a separate interview room. He had agreed to cooperate in exchange for immunity from accessory charges. His confession filled the room through the speakers. I saw the report. I confronted Dr. Hale. He said the baby couldn't live because it would expose them. He told me if I helped, he'd make sure Arya was sedated, that no one would know. I thought I was protecting her career. I didn't know until she died. The recording ended. The silence that followed was heavy and final. Shah spoke softly. "You've done everything right, Arya. We'll take it from here." I nodded. I didn't feel victory, only an ache that went too deep to name. Weeks passed. The shelter helped me find a small apartment under a different name. Dr. Miller quietly transferred my prenatal care to a secure clinic, guarded and confidential. Each time I heard the baby's heartbeat, I felt something fierce and bright pulse inside me, a sound that cut through nightmares. The day the indictment was announced, Officer Reyes called. "Your father's medical license is revoked. He's facing multiple felony counts. Your mother accepted a plea, 5 years for obstruction and tampering." I sat down slowly, one hand over my belly. "And Liam?" "He's been placed in protective custody until the trial. He's cooperating fully." The word should have brought closure, but all I felt was exhaustion, and a fragile, trembling gratitude that the truth existed in writing this time. That night, I opened the small lockbox the advocate had given me. Inside were copies of every document, the report, the video stills, the witness statements. Evidence of survival. I added one more item, the ultrasound photo, creased from being carried too often. "I don't know what the world will think of us," I whispered to my unborn child. "But you are innocent. You are loved. And you will never be hidden." Outside, rain started to fall, gentle at first, then steady, cleansing the city's air. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, watching the lights blur. In another life, that storm had drowned me. In this one, it sounded like freedom. 3 months later, I stood before a courtroom filled with reporters and cold-faced lawyers. My father refused to look at me as I gave my testimony. My voice didn't shake. I told them everything: the drugs, the confinement, the room, the hospital, the rebirth. When I finished, the judge said only, "Dr. Hale, the evidence against you is overwhelming." He was sentenced to life without parole. My mother wept silently beside him as the guards led him away. Outside the courthouse, flashes erupted, cameras clicking like distant thunder. I shielded my eyes and stepped into the open air. The sky was gray, but to me, it looked endless. Officer Reyes met me by the car. "You did it." "No," I said quietly. "We did." I placed a hand on my stomach, a promise in the beginning. For the first time in both my lives, I felt the simple, startling certainty of being free.